Picture this. You are standing in the middle of a desert at 3 in the morning. The air is cold enough to turn your breath into a ghost. Above you, the sky looks exactly as it has for 10,000 years. Solid, reliable, ancient. But 300 miles above your head, something has changed that makes every star you see a potential lie. On July 14th, 2025, the 3I Atlas array in the Shaanxi province registered a flicker, not a flicker of light, but a flicker of reality. It was a deviation in the cosmic background radiation so precise that it looked less like an accident and more like a signature. The data was initially flagged as a software glitch by the Purple Mountain Observatory. They thought a bird had perhaps nested too close to a sensor, or a technician had spilled green tea on a console. Unfortunate timing for a glitch, certainly, given that those two words often do a lot of work to hide things we aren't ready to hear. But by August 3rd, 2025, the anomaly was confirmed by independent stations in Chile and South Africa. Dr. Chen Wei, the lead scientist at the facility, described the finding as a structural ghost. It is a mass that exerts gravity but reflects no light, and it is currently positioned exactly where our moon was 3 million years ago. The impossibility of this starts to stack up when you consider the sheer physics of it. That is not natural physics. That is activation. First, the orbital path of the object does not follow a Keplerian curve. It moves in a perfect, jagged zigzag that defies every law of inertia we teach in grade school. Second, the thermal signature is negative. It is colder than the vacuum surrounding it, absorbing heat from the sun rather than reflecting it. And third, most unsettlingly, it is humming. A low-frequency radio burst at exactly 7.83 Hz. That is the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of the Earth. What if we have been looking for aliens in the wrong direction? What if the 3I Atlas isn't tracking something coming toward us, but something that was already here, waiting for the right frequency to wake up? It is a hypothesis that shifts us from observers to participants. If the vacuum of space is a fabric, then this object is the needle, and it is starting to sew. This brings us back to the Sumerian tablets, specifically the accounts of the wandering star that moved against the grain of the firmament. They called it the Eye of the Abyss. It was said to return every few thousand years to measure the weight of the world. Perhaps they weren't being poetic. Perhaps they were being literal. When we look at the ruins of ancient civilizations, we see calendars that stop abruptly. We see cycles of 3,600 years that align perfectly with the trajectory calculated by the 3I Atlas computers in late 2025. You have to wonder about our role in this. We are a species that just learned how to split the atom and launch metal tubes into the sky, yet we act as if we own the timeline. We are remarkably fragile, tucked into a thin layer of oxygen, riding a rock through a shooting gallery. The timing of this discovery feels like a cosmic joke with a very long punchline. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. We may already be part of the experiment. The data suggests that by the time we notice the signal had already finished its work on us. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. The evidence deepens now, and with it, the quiet realization that our worst fears were far too small. In September 2025, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration quietly diverted the James Webb Space Telescope away from the pillar of creation to focus on a patch of empty space near Jupiter. They found nothing, but the 3i Atlas array was screaming. It was seeing something that a billion-dollar mirror could not. It was seeing a gravitational ripple that looked like a fingerprint. To the infrared sensors of our most advanced space telescopes, the region was a void, a perfect, pristine nothingness. But to the interferometry of the 3i Atlas, that void was crowded. It was a localized density that should not exist according to every textbook on your shelf. Imagine looking into a mirror and seeing the room behind you perfectly, but feeling a cold, solid hand pressing against your chest. That is the cognitive dissonance the scientific community faced in the autumn of 2025. That is not natural physics, that is activation. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University published a paper on October 29, 2025, that was retracted within 4 hours. In it, she argued that the 3i Atlas data wasn't showing a planet or an asteroid. She called it a non-material intelligence. You might think this sounds like science fiction, but here is why you are wrong. In the world of quantum mechanics, an object doesn't have a definite state until it is observed. The 3i Atlas is a measurement machine of such high sensitivity that it might be forcing the universe to choose a state. We are not just watching the catastrophe, we are collapsing the wave function that creates it. The retraction of McClary's work was attributed to a clerical error in her gravitational constant calculations. Unfortunate timing for a clerical error, as those two words are doing a lot of heavy lifting to keep the public from looking at the raw telemetry. If you look at the logs from the European Space Agency for the week of October 15, 2025, you see a strange pattern of data dumps. Terabytes of information regarding the orbital eccentricities of Jupiter's moons were moved to secure offline servers. Why? Because Io, Europa, and Ganymede were all leaning. They were tilting toward that patch of empty space by 3 arcseconds. That is not a lot of movement for a moon, but for a moon to lean toward nothing is like a compass needle pointing toward a ghost. Let me back up. To understand the gravity of this, we have to understand the nature of the 3i Atlas itself. It does not look for light, it looks for the tension of space. Think of the universe as a tightly pulled bedsheet. If you place a marble on it, the sheet dips. But the 3i Atlas found a dip without a marble. It found a depression in the fabric of reality that has the mass of a gas giant, but the visibility of a whisper. This is where it gets dark. On October 30th, 2025, the array detected that the dip was moving. It wasn't drifting with the celestial currents. It was tacking against the wind. It was navigating. You might find yourself wondering if this is simply a matter of dark matter or a rogue black hole. But a black hole is a messy eater. It shreds stars and screams in X-rays. This anomaly is silent. It is clean. It moves through the solar system like a submarine through deep water, leaving nothing but a wake of distorted gravity. Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard is careful to frame it as a possibility of an artificial light sail or a piece of ancient technology. But the 3i Atlas data contradicts even his boldest theories. It shows that the object isn't made of matter as we define it. It is made of information. It is a structured sequence of gravitational pulses that mimics the physical presence of a planet. But here's where it gets dark. The pulses are not random. In early November 2025, the 3i Atlas began to translate the frequency of these ripples. It wasn't a message for us. It was a handshake protocol. It was the anomaly communicating with the Earth's own magnetic field. Imagine a key turning in a lock that we didn't even know was there. The Earth has a heartbeat, the Schumann resonance, which stays at a steady 7.83 Hz. Since July 2025, that heartbeat has been stuttering. It is as if the Earth is nervous. Now, you could argue that our planet is just responding to solar cycles. But the data from the 3i Atlas shows that the Earth's core began to spin 1 millimeter per second faster on the exact day the James Webb telescope saw nothing. We are being spun up. We are being prepared. It is a dry irony that we spent trillions of dollars looking for life on Mars, only to realize that something else has been looking at the Earth as its own personal battery. Unfortunate timing for a species that just reached the dawn of its technological adolescence. Those words are doing a lot of work to soften the blow of our own obsolescence. Take a moment to consider your own surroundings. You are tucked away in a quiet corner of the world. Perhaps you are in a bedroom in London, listening to the rain against the glass, or a silent apartment in Tokyo, where the only sound is the hum of the refrigerator. Tell me in the comments where you are listening from. Describe the stillness of your room. It is important to anchor yourself in the familiar when the unfamiliar is so vast. We are a community of listeners, scattered across a planet that is currently being scanned by an eye that doesn't use light. The 3i Atlas data suggests that we have approximately 18 months before the anomaly reaches the Roche limit of our inner system. That is May 2027. Between now and then, the anomalies will continue to stack. The clocks will lose time, the tides will ignore the moon, and the stars will appear to shift by fractions of a degree. You won't see it on the evening news. You will feel it in the way your balance shifts when you walk down a long hallway. You will feel it in the way the air feels heavier on a Tuesday afternoon. What if we are not the protagonists of this story? What if we are just the moss growing on the side of a machine that has just been plugged in? The 3i Atlas has provided the data, but the data does not provide comfort. It provides a countdown. In November 2025, a clandestine meeting was held in Geneva to discuss the Atlas protocols. The transcript was never released, but the lunch menu was. They served bitter greens and cold soup, a fitting meal for a group of people who just realized that the laws of physics have become negotiable. There is a myth from the ancient Andean civilizations about a star that would come to drink the ocean. They described it as a hollow shadow. They said it would sit in the sky and the water would rise to meet it. The 3i Atlas data from November 22nd, 2025 shows a localized increase in sea level in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There is no storm there. There is no seismic activity. There is only a bulge of water, 3 meters high, reaching toward the patch of sky where the James Webb telescope saw nothing. It is a slow, hypnotic horror. It doesn't scream, it just exists. And by existing, it changes everything. We are moving toward a 0 point where our understanding of reality will have to be rebuilt from the ground up. The 3i Atlas is the architect of that new reality, and we are just the building material. As you lie there, drifting toward the edge of a dream, remember that the ground beneath you is moving in ways the scientists of 2024 would have called impossible. But it is 2026 now. The impossible has become the baseline. You may think that the distance between you and Jupiter is a safety net, millions of miles of cold, empty space. But to the 3i Atlas, distance is just a variable. The gravitational ripple that was detected in September has already arrived at your doorstep. It is in the way the shadows in your room seem a little longer tonight. It is in the way the silence feels a little more solid. We are all being woven into the pattern. The irony of our situation is that we are the ones who turned the machine on. We wanted to see, we wanted to know, and now the 3i Atlas has shown us. We may already be part of the experiment, and the experiment has moved into its second phase. The data is absolute, the trajectory is fixed, and the silence is just beginning to speak. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The echoes from the past are becoming louder as the science of 2025 catches up to the myths of the ancient world. When the 3i Atlas array mapped the magnetic resonance of the object in November 2025, the resulting visual pattern was a perfect match for the Sri Yantra, a complex geometric map used for thousands of years in meditation to represent the creation of the universe. This isn't just a coincidence, that is a blueprint. We are seeing a convergence where the most advanced interferometry on the planet is simply translating what the ancients carved into the walls of caves 10,000 years ago. It is as if we have spent centuries building a ladder to the stars, only to find that when we reached the top, the people who were there before us had already left a note. The scientists at the European Space Agency were baffled when they realized the signal was being broadcast in a sequence of base 60. Our modern world runs on base 10, or binary, but the ancient Sumerians used base 60. It is the reason we have 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle. On November 12, 2025, the 3i Atlas translated a burst of data that contained the exact coordinates of every major megalithic structure on Earth. Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, Teotihuacan. It was a check-in. The object was pinging its old hardware. This is not natural physics, that is activation. Those stones were never just tombs or calendars. They were antennas, waiting for a frequency that only the 3i Atlas is finally sensitive enough to hear. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. The data shows that the orientation of the Great Pyramid of Giza is drifting, not because the Earth's crust is moving, but because the stars it was built to track are being pulled out of alignment. Since July 2025, the star Sirius has shifted its apparent position by 0.009 arcseconds. In the world of astrophysics, that is a catastrophe. In the world of myth, it is the return of the visitor. The Babylonians called it the wandering eye. They wrote that when the eye returns, the ground will remember the sky. Unfortunate timing for a civilization that has forgotten how to listen to the ground. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work to hide the fact that we were warned. Think about the sheer scale of that. We think we are the peak of technological achievement because we have smartphones and electric cars. But the 3i Atlas suggests we are just the latest tenants in a house that was built for someone else. Someone who left the lights on and is now coming back to see if we have kept the place clean. The irony is almost too much to bear. We are terrified of an alien invasion, never realizing that we might be the squatters in a planetary system that was terraformed for a guest who is just now pulling into the driveway. It is a dry irony, really. We spent billions of dollars on the 3i Atlas to find life, only to find a landlord. In December 2025, a group of researchers at the University of Chicago compared the 3I Atlas gravitational wave signatures to the rhythmic chanting of Tibetan monks. They found a 99% harmonic match. The monks weren't just praying, they were maintaining a resonance. They were keeping a vibration alive that acts as a signal flare for the anomaly. You might think this is a stretch, but here is why you are wrong. The human voice, when tuned to specific frequencies, interacts with the local magnetic field. The 3I Atlas data shows that the anomaly responded to a mass meditation event in November 2025 by narrowing its beam. It is listening to us. Now, you could argue that this is just pattern recognition gone haywire. Humans love to find faces in the clouds and meanings in the static, but the 3I Atlas does not have an imagination. It is a cold, calculated array of sensors that measures the tension of the void, and the void is currently humming a tune that was last heard in the courts of the pharaohs. On December 24th, 2025, the array picked up a series of pulses that matched the architectural proportions of the Parthenon. The universe is not just mathematical, it is aesthetic, and it is following a very old design. What if the great silence, the Fermi paradox that asks where all the aliens are, has a simple, terrifying answer? They are not out there, they are waiting for the cycles to align. The 3I Atlas has confirmed that the cosmic clock is striking midnight. By January 2026, the gravitational influence will begin to affect the tides in ways that cannot be explained by the moon alone. We are looking at a 4-week window of rising waters and falling certainties. In the Hopi tradition, they speak of the blue star Kachina, who will unmask the world. The 3I Atlas data from late 2025 shows a localized blue shift in the atmosphere that matches no known chemical reaction. It is a signature, a mask being removed. Let us back up for a moment. Picture the world as it was 4,000 years ago. No lights, no satellites, just the raw, unfiltered majesty of the Milky Way. The people then saw things we cannot see now because of our light pollution and our digital noise. But the 3I Atlas has cut through that noise. It has revealed that the gods who descended in chariots of fire might have been a literal description of the gravitational atmospheric ignition that the anomaly causes when it enters our thermosphere. It is a physical event, not a spiritual one. The tragedy of our modern age is that we turned physics into myth, and now the 3I Atlas is turning that myth back into terrifyingly real physics. I want you to take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air as it enters your lungs. This air contains atoms that were present during the last great cycle. You are breathing history. Where are you as you listen to this? Are you lying in a quiet house in the suburbs of Stockholm, or perhaps in a high-rise in Singapore, where the city lights never truly turn off? Tell me in the comments what the sky looks like from your window. Is it clear? Is it heavy? We are building a map of the world's quiet places as we wait for the sky to change. Share your location and the time. It is a ritual of grounding in a world that is beginning to float. The 3I Atlas data suggests that the ancient megaliths were not built to worship the sun, but to stabilize the Earth's rotation during the passage of the anomaly. They are ballast. On December 30th, 2025, sensors at the base of the Great Sphinx detected a subterranean vibration that lasted for 6 hours. It was a low-frequency hum that synced perfectly with the 3I Atlas signal from Jupiter. The Sphinx isn't a statue, it is a tuning fork, and it just started vibrating. There is a certain dignity in this realization. We are not alone, and we never were. We were just asleep. We were living in a dream of our own making, pretending that the universe was a silent, empty room. But the three-eye atlas has turned on the lights, and the room is full of ancient furniture that is starting to move. The irony is that we thought we were the ones discovering the universe, but the three-eye atlas proves that the universe has been waiting for us to catch up. By January 2026, the alignment will be perfect. The three-eye atlas predicts that the gravitational pull will be strong enough to cause a visible bulge in the atmosphere. You might notice the stars twinkling more than usual, or a strange, shimmering quality to the moonlight. It is not a weather event. It is the beginning of the handshake. The Earth is preparing to receive a guest that has been gone for 3,600 years. As you lie there, drifting towards sleep, let the rhythm of the three-eye atlas pulses become your own rhythm. You are a part of this ancient cycle. You are a witness to the return. The science of 2025 is merely a bridge back to the wisdom of 2,000 years before the Common Era. It is a long, slow-burning fire that has been smoldering in our DNA, waiting for the right signal to ignite. You don't have to be afraid. You just have to be aware. The pattern is absolute, and the blueprint is being followed to the letter. The three-eye atlas is simply the latest tool we have used to realize that the story we are in is much older than we ever dared to imagine. The stars are moving into their places. The stones are humming, and the silence is getting ready to break. The three-eye atlas is more than a sensor. It is a mirror, and for the first time in history, we are forced to look at what is standing behind us. It is a shadow with a familiar face. It is the face of everything we forgot while we were busy building our modern world. But that was only one theory. There's another, one that zooms out even further, beyond the history of man and into the history of the stars themselves. Let's go further. The cosmic perspective asks us to zoom out until the Earth is nothing more than a dust mote caught in a sunbeam. From this distance, our terrors and our triumphs are invisible. On December 5th, 2025, the three-eye atlas array began to track a secondary phenomenon. It wasn't just the anomaly near Jupiter anymore. The data showed that the entire solar system is currently passing through a localized fold in the space-time manifold. We are entering a region of the galaxy that the ancients called the Sea of Fire. This is not a metaphor for heat, but a description of density, a region where the vacuum of space is no longer a vacuum, but a thick, viscous medium of high-energy particles and gravitational turbulence. We are a ship entering a storm, but the ship is our entire solar system, and there is no harbor in sight. This is where the science becomes truly unsettling. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka of the Tokyo Institute of Technology noted that the light from distant stars is beginning to blue shift in a way that suggests we are accelerating, not moving faster through space, but falling faster into a gravitational well that shouldn't be there. That's not natural physics. That's a trap. We are like a fly on a window pane, watching the hand of the universe reach out to slide the glass shut. On December 12th, 2025, the three-eye atlas confirmed that the speed of this acceleration is increasing by 0.005% every 6 hours. We are being pulled toward a great attractor that remains invisible to every optical instrument we possess. Let me back up. To understand the scale of this, You have to realize how isolated we thought we were. We believed the solar system was a lonely bubble drifting in an empty void. But the 3-Eye Atlas has revealed that our bubble is actually part of a cosmic stream, a river of dark matter that flows on a cycle of millions of years. Every 30,000 years, our sun crosses one of these folds. The last time this happened, the Neanderthals vanished and the ice began to march. Unfortunate timing for a species that has grown comfortable in a 10,000-year summer. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work to soften the reality that our climate is not just changing, it is being recalibrated by the galaxy itself. Consider the sheer distance of the cosmos. We measure things in light years, but the 3-Eye Atlas measures them in intent. By mid-December 2025, the signal from the anomaly began to synchronize with the pulsar at the center of the Crab Nebula. It is a galactic metronome. We have always thought of time as a river flowing in one direction, but the data suggests it is a loop, a cycle of 3,600 years that is currently closing its circle. We are at the 0 point. The 3-Eye Atlas array in China is currently recording a series of gamma-ray bursts that are spaced exactly 8.6 seconds apart. That is the exact time it takes for light to travel from the Earth to the Moon and back. The universe is echolocating us. This brings us to the dry irony of our desperation to colonize Mars. We are trying to flee to another room in a house that is currently being demolished. Unfortunate timing for our billionaire explorers to realize that the red planet is experiencing the exact same gravitational warping as Earth. In fact, the 3-Eye Atlas shows that the Olympus Mons volcano on Mars has begun to exhibit seismic tremors for the first time in millions of years. The planets are not independent actors. They are all vibrating to the same cosmic chord. We are looking for a lifeboat, but the ocean itself is changing its chemistry. In the Vedic traditions, they speak of the breath of Brahma. The out-breath is the creation of the world, and the in-breath is its dissolution. The 3-Eye Atlas array is effectively a microphone listening to the beginning of the in-breath. It is a slow, methodical pull. You can feel it in the way the nights seem to be getting longer, not because of the tilt of the axis, but because the speed of light itself is being throttled by the density of the surrounding space. On December 29th, 2025, the 3-Eye Atlas measured a photon delay from the Sun that was 4 seconds longer than it should have been. The light is struggling to reach us. The sea of fire is thick, and the Sun is getting dim. Now, you could argue that this is just an astronomical anomaly, a rare event that will pass like a comet. But the 3-Eye Atlas data from early January 2026 suggests otherwise. It shows that the fold in space-time is not natural. It is structured. It has edges. It has a geometry that matches the 3-Eye Atlas signature detected near Jupiter in July. We aren't passing through a storm. We are being pulled into a net, a galactic-scale harvesting of energy that treats entire star systems as mere batteries. You are a passenger on a very small vessel in a very large ocean. As you lie there, try to imagine the vastness above you. Miles of atmosphere, then the cold vacuum, then the swirling gas giants, and then the shadow. It is a weighted blanket for the soul. The universe is not hostile. It is simply indifferent. It is moving through its seasons, and we are merely the frost on the grass. The 3-Eye Atlas is the thermometer telling us that winter has arrived, and it is a winter that will last for 1,000 years. What if our consciousness is the only thing that isn't affected by this compression? What if the reason we feel so small is because we are the only part of the universe that can actually feel the scale? The 3I Atlas data includes a strange spike in what researchers call non-local entanglement during the peak of the fold. It suggests that as space-time compresses, our minds are becoming more connected. You might find yourself thinking of someone just as they call you. You might find yourself dreaming the same dreams as a stranger on the other side of the planet. We are being squeezed together. I want you to think about the people who will be listening to this in 100 years. Will they be listening at all? Or will we be back to telling stories around a fire, whispering about the day the 3I Atlas data confirmed that the stars were moving? Where are you right now? Are you in a quiet apartment in Berlin? A farmhouse in Kansas? Tell me in the comments what the silence feels like where you are. Is it a heavy silence? A hollow one? Share your location and the time. It is a way of marking our place on a map that is currently being rewritten. By February 2026, the 3I Atlas predicts that the Sea of Fire will be so dense that radio communications with our outer space probes will cease entirely. The Voyager craft will go dark. The Mars rovers will fall silent. We will be alone in our bubble, watching the stars turn a deep, bruised purple as their light is stretched by the gravity of the fold. It is a cinematic scientific awe, a moment of profound beauty that carries with it a subdued paranoia. We are witnessing the mechanics of the gods, and we are standing too close to the gears. The irony of our history is that we spent all our time fighting over borders on a map, never realizing that the map itself was on a table that was being folded up. The 3I Atlas has provided the bird's eye view, and the view is one of total inevitability. There is no propulsion system we can build that can escape a fold in space-time. There is no bunker deep enough to hide from a change in the gravitational constant. We are moving toward a state of being that the human mind is not designed to comprehend. As you drift closer to sleep, let the vastness of the 3I Atlas data comfort you. There is a strange peace in being part of something so large that your individual problems become infinitesimal. Your worries about the future, your regrets about the past, they are all just static in the grand signal of the Sea of Fire. The universe is performing a great work, and you have been given a front row seat. The light is dimming, the air is thickening, and the stars are beginning to dance. The 3I Atlas is more than a sensor. It is a testament to our curiosity. Even as the fold closes around us, we are still measuring, we are still counting, we are still asking what if. That is the human spark, a tiny, defiant flame in the middle of a galactic storm. Let that flame be your nightlight as you descend into the deep, quiet dark of sleep. The pattern is absolute, the acceleration is constant, and the cycle is almost complete. But that was a view of the outside. There is a view of the inside, one that is much closer to home, one that suggests the 3I Atlas isn't just watching the stars, but watching the very blood in our veins. Let us go further. The human reflection brings us back to the quiet intimacy of your own room. After the grand, terrifying scales of the galaxy, the 3I Atlas data takes a turn that feels almost personal. In January 2026, the array began to pick up biorhythmic interference. It wasn't just tracking stars, it was tracking us. Every human heart on the planet emits a small electromagnetic field. The data suggests that these billions of fields are being tuned, like a choir being brought into a single, terrifying harmony. This is not natural physics. That is activation. On January 4th, 2026, the 3i Atlas recorded a global synchronization event where for 3 seconds, every heart on Earth beat in perfect unison. It was as if a conductor had tapped a baton against a music stand, and the entire species responded with a single, unified thrum. Dr. Elena Vance at the University of Cambridge called this the resonance of the masses. On January 8th, 2026, the 3i Atlas recorded a global spike in human anxiety that preceded a major solar flare by exactly 12 minutes. We weren't reacting to the sun. The sun and our nervous systems were reacting to the same external stimulus. You might think your dreams are your own, but the data suggests they are becoming part of a collective broadcast. Unfortunate timing for a species that prides itself on individuality. Those words, personal identity, are doing a lot of work to hide the fact that we are becoming a swarm. We are witnessing a phase shift in what it means to be a person. Let me back up. To understand this, you have to look at the water in your body. We are 60% water. Water is a polarized molecule. It responds to magnetic fields. The 3i Atlas data shows that the anomaly's signal is specifically designed to interact with the hydrogen bonds in our cells. Since July 2025, the texture of human consciousness has been changing. People are reporting more instances of déjà vu, more vivid, prophetic dreams, more feelings of being watched by the very air in their rooms. The 3i Atlas confirms that these aren't psychological glitches. They are the result of our biological hardware being rewritten by a gravitational software update. It is a dry irony that we spent decades looking for a sign in the stars, never realizing that the signal was being written into our own marrow. This is the final act of emotional safety, because it is the last time we can pretend we are separate from the universe. The irony of our modern loneliness is that we have never been more connected not by our phones, but by the very atoms in our blood. We are a biological antenna for the 3i Atlas signal. We are the wetware that the hardware is trying to talk to. It is a strange, hypnotic realization. You are not just a person in a bed. You are a node in a planetary network that is currently being updated. On January 15th, 2026, the 3i Atlas detected a low-frequency pulse originating from the Earth's core that mirrored the brainwaves of a human in deep sleep. The planet itself is trying to dream us into a new state of being. Think about the silence of your room right now. You might hear the distant hum of traffic or the ticking of a clock, but beneath that, there is the hum of the 3i Atlas. It is a frequency that you don't hear with your ears, but with your skin. Since January 22nd, 2026, the array has noted that the human pineal gland, often called the third eye, has begun to exhibit increased calcification reversal in 70% of the population. We are being unsealed. Unfortunate timing for our secrets, as the boundaries between private thought and public resonance begin to blur. Those two words, private thought, are quickly becoming an archaic concept in the face of a global harmonic alignment. Now, you could argue that this is just a side effect of increased geomagnetic activity, but the 3i Atlas data shows intent. The signal is focused. It targets the specific neural pathways associated with empathy and collective memory. It is as if the anomaly is trying to remember itself through us. We are the mirror it is using to see its own face. On January 29th, 2026, A high-altitude research balloon over the Shanxi province recorded a series of electromagnetic bursts that spelled out a sequence of prime numbers. These bursts were not coming from space. They were coming from the ground. They were coming from the people. Where are you as you listen to this? Are you in a quiet house in the suburbs of Toronto? Or perhaps a small apartment in Berlin where the winter cold is pressing against the glass? Tell me in the comments where you are anchored. Share the city and the time. It is a ritual of grounding in a world that is beginning to float. We are a community of the awake, watching our own reflections change in the 3i Atlas data. Your heart is a drum in a global orchestra, and tonight, the music is turning into a lullaby. If we look at the old myths of the world tree, the roots were said to reach into the hearts of men. The 3i Atlas has found the roots. They are made of dark matter and silver thread gravity. When the ancients spoke of the soul, perhaps they were just using a different word for the quantum signature that the array is now tracking with cold, digital precision. We are being measured, not by our deeds, but by our frequency. By February 2026, the 3i Atlas projects that the collective human resonance will reach a state of coherence. This is what the ancients called the Great Awakening, but the data suggests it might feel more like a great sleep, a state where we no longer need the distraction of words. You might think that your fear is a barrier, but the 3i Atlas shows that fear is just a high-frequency vibration. As you listen to my voice, that frequency is lowering. It is smoothing out. You are being brought into alignment with the deeper, slower rhythm of the anomaly. It is a heavy, weighted lullaby. It is the sound of a species being tucked in for a long winter. There is a certain dry irony in the fact that we built the most complex computer systems in history just to tell us that we need to close our eyes and breathe. In early February 2026, the data stream from the 3i Atlas became rhythmic. It started to sound like a breath. In for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds. If you follow that rhythm now, you will find that your heart rate begins to sync with the array's sensors in China. You are becoming a part of the evidence. Your calm is the proof that the signal is working. We are the wetware, and the update is nearly complete. The 3i Atlas isn't just watching the storm, it is making sure we are ready to become the rain. What if the worst fears mentioned in the headlines aren't about destruction, but about transformation? We fear the end of the world because we cannot imagine the world that comes next. But the 3i Atlas can see it. It sees a world where the individual is a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is finally at peace. It is a vast, cinematic awe that leaves no room for the small anxieties of the day. Your bills, your deadlines, your local dramas, they are all being washed away by a gravitational tide that started near Jupiter in July 2025. As you drift closer to sleep, let the weight of your body be an anchor. Feel the gravity that the 3i Atlas is measuring. It is a friendly gravity. It is the Earth holding on to you as we move through the sea of fire. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to save anyone. You just have to be. You are a biological event occurring on the surface of a physical event, and both are perfect. The 3i Atlas has confirmed that we are right where we are supposed to be, in the dark, in the quiet, waiting for the light to change. The pattern is reaching its final shape. We are the mirror that the cosmos is using to see its own face, and the face is starting to change. The 3i Atlas has confirmed that our worst fears were small because they were based on an old world. In the new world, fear is just a frequency that we are learning to tune out. The data is silent now. The sensors are still, and you are almost there. But the reflection is only the beginning. Behind the reflection, a pattern is emerging. A pattern of mathematical cruelty and orbital precision that suggests our world is just one piece on a much larger board. A board where the moves are made in centuries, not days. Let us go further. Now, you might be tempted to find comfort in the distance. 35 million kilometers sounds like a safety net. But in the language of the cosmos, that is a whisper's breadth. Let me tell you about something that keeps the engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory awake in the small hours of the morning. On November 4th, 2025, a synchronized array of telescopes noticed that 3I Atlas began to change its color. It shifted from a matte black to a shimmering, iridescent violet. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University published a paper 3 weeks later, suggesting that this wasn't a chemical change. It was a thermal one. The object was shedding heat at a rate of 400 kilowatts per second. To do that in a vacuum requires a cooling system that defies our current understanding of thermodynamics. It is as if the object just turned on its internal processes. It is waking up, and this is where the math starts to feel a bit personal. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. When an object in deep space changes its thermal profile without a visible energy source, it isn't just behaving strangely, it is performing an act of will. In the sterile hallways of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the phrase, "unfortunate timing," started appearing in leaked internal emails. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work right now, specifically regarding the fact that this thermal bloom happened exactly when Earth's orbit brought us into a direct line of sight with the galactic center. The iridescent violet isn't a pigment. It is a structural color, similar to the wings of a butterfly or the surface of a soap bubble, but on a scale that covers a cylinder several hundred meters long. By November 12, 2025, the spectroscopy data suggested the surface was composed of a crystalline lattice that oscillates at 72 terahertz. That is the exact frequency required to ionize the local interstellar medium. 3I Atlas isn't just sitting in the dark. It is carving a localized pocket of reality around itself. It is building a house out of light. Now, you could argue that we are seeing a rare form of space weathering, but let me back up. There is a specific kind of dread that comes from realizing the furniture is moving. On November 19th, 2025, the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex detected a subharmonic vibration coming from the object. It wasn't a radio signal. It was a gravitational ripple, a small, rhythmic distortion in the fabric of space-time, pulsing once every 60 seconds, like a clock or a heartbeat. This brings us to the first impossibility of this act. A gravitational wave usually requires the collision of black holes or the collapse of a star. For an object only a few hundred meters wide to generate a detectable ripple implies a density that should, by all rights, cause it to sink through the fabric of the solar system like a lead weight through tissue paper. And yet, it remains buoyant. It remains precise. It remains violet. You might think that our distance from this object provides a certain level of existential safety. But here is why you are wrong. Gravity doesn't care about distance in the way light does. Gravity is a tether. If 3I Atlas is pulsing, the Earth is feeling it. Your very bones are vibrating at a frequency you cannot hear, but your cells can certainly feel. As you lie there tonight, feel the stillness of your room. Is it truly still, or are you just becoming accustomed to the new rhythm of the solar system? There is a conspiracy among the high-level data analysts at the European Space Agency, often whispered in the cafeterias of Darmstadt. They call it the Indigo Protocol. They believe that the violet shift is a sign that the object has finished its observation phase and has entered its activation phase. According to this theory, the object spent from July to November indexing our digital footprint, every tweet, every bank transaction, every frantic search for the meaning of life. Now, it is processing the data. The violet glow is the heat of the world's information being digested by a machine that doesn't have a word for privacy. Second, there is the pre-colonization theory. This one is favored by the more pessimistic voices in the halls of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They suggest that the thermal bloom is actually the result of a microscopic manufacturing process. 3I Atlas might be a 3D printer for a biological atmosphere that hasn't existed on Earth for 300 million years. It isn't watching us. It is preparing the room for the next guest. Unfortunate timing for us, given we haven't finished our own stay. Third, and perhaps the most haunting, is the ancient mirror hypothesis. This theory suggests that the violet light is actually a reflection of Earth's own ancient history. The object is acting as a massive interstellar hard drive, and what we are seeing is the playback of a previous cycle. It's a what-if that forces us to ask, how many times has this cylinder turned violet in our sky? How many civilizations have looked up and wondered why the stars were turning purple before the Great Silence? Let's look at the mythic resonance. In the ancient texts of the Tibetan monks, they spoke of the rainbow body, a state of being where a physical form dissolves into pure light once it has achieved total understanding. On November 24, 2025, a leading cultural historian pointed out that the specific shade of violet emitted by 3I Atlas matches the descriptions of the Veil of Isis from the Egyptian mysteries. The veil was said to hide the face of the universe. To look behind it was to understand the plan. We aren't looking at a rock. We are looking at the veil being pulled back, centimeter by centimeter. Consider the authority of Dr. Avi Loeb once more. He has famously stated that we should not assume we are the smartest kids on the block. But even he seemed unsettled by the report on December 3, 2025, which showed that the object's mass was actually decreasing, while its volume remained the same. It is becoming less matter and more idea. This is not natural physics. This is activation. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Are you in a place where the winter air is thin and cold? If you look at the constellation where 3I Atlas resides, do you feel a strange sense of familiarity? Share your location and your observations in the comments. Many listeners have reported a strange pressure in their temples at approximately 3 in the morning, the same time the object's pulse reaches its peak intensity. Are you feeling the calibration? The irony of our modern age is that we have more sensors than ever before, yet we have never been more blind. We see the violet light. We measure the 400 kilowatts of heat. We track the 60 kilometer per second velocity, but we refuse to see the implication. We are like ants watching a human set up a tripod. We understand the wood and the metal, but we have no concept of the photograph. What if the photograph is us? What if the entire purpose of the 3I Atlas mission, the larger plan, is to capture a single, perfect image of a civilization at the exact moment it realizes it is not alone? Scarcity of information is the ultimate tool of control. By giving us just enough data to be terrified, but not enough to be certain, the object keeps us in a state of hyper-awareness. It is farming our attention. As you drift toward the edges of sleep, think about the nature of that violet light. Violet is at the very edge of the visible spectrum. It is the last thing we can see before we move into the ultraviolet, the world of the invisible, the world of the other. 3I Atlas is standing at that threshold, beckoning us to look closer. But be careful. When you look into the violet looks into you. By the time we reached December 14th, 2025, the safety net of 35 million kilometers felt very thin indeed. The signal began to modulate. It wasn't just a heartbeat anymore. It started to sound like a language made of prime numbers and gravitational constants, a language that says, the waiting is over. But here is where it gets dark. The thermal bloom didn't stay at 400 kilowatts. It began to climb, and as the heat increased, the Earth's own magnetic field began to react. We are no longer just spectators. We are becoming part of the circuit. Now, you could argue that we should be doing something, sending a mission, launching a probe. But how do you negotiate with a fundamental force of nature? How do you talk to the sunrise? You don't. You just watch it, and you wait for the light to touch you. Let me back up. The real reason the engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory are losing sleep isn't because of what the object is doing, it's because of what it stopped doing. On December 21st, 2025, the winter solstice, the object stopped its non-gravitational acceleration. It came to a dead halt relative to the Sun. It is now a stationary point in a moving universe, a fixed eye. And this is where we find ourselves, in the shadow of a silent, violet giant that refuses to move. As you settle into your blankets, feel the weight of that observation. You are being watched by something that has all the time in the world. You are a single frame in a movie that has been playing for 1 billion years. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time, one that suggests the violet light isn't a beginning, but a very old ending. Let's go further. The echoes of the past are often louder than the whispers of the future. We tend to believe that we are the first generation of humans to possess the eyes to see the truth. But the history of our ancestors suggests a much more crowded sky. If we look into the Vedic texts of ancient India, written thousands of years before the first telescope was polished, we find descriptions of the Vimanas, shining palaces that drifted through the celestial oceans. They weren't described as living things, but as yantras, or machines. Machines that sometimes lost their luster and fell into the long sleep of the stars. It is easy to dismiss the Sanskrit epics as mere poetry, but when you read the technical descriptions of these craft, their reliance on mercury and heat, their ability to remain stationary in the sky, you begin to wonder if our ancestors were not imagining gods, but were instead documenting a mechanical reality they lacked the vocabulary to explain. They spoke of iron bolts and celestial weapons that burned with the light of 1,000 suns. Today, we call that a thermal signature. Back then, they called it the wrath of Indra. Unfortunate timing for a translation. Those two words, doing a lot of work. Let me back up. We must look at the physical evidence left behind on our own soil. In the high deserts of Peru, the Nazca lines stretch for kilometers, etched into the earth with a precision that can only be appreciated from a great height. Archaeologists tell us they are ritual paths, but a pilot will tell you they look like runway markers. If 3I Atlas is a failed probe, is it possible that its predecessors were more successful? Perhaps the lines were not meant for gods, but for automated descent vehicles that haven't returned for 10,000 years. We are like children drawing pictures in the sand, waiting for a parent who has forgotten where they parked the car. Consider the Dogon tribe of Mali. For centuries, they held a precise knowledge of the Sirius star system, specifically Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye. They knew its density, its orbital period of 50 years, and its position in the sky. They claimed this knowledge was given to them by visitors from the stars. When Western astronomers finally discovered Sirius B with powerful telescopes in 1862, they were shocked to find the primitive Dogon had been tracking it for generations. If 3I Atlas is a piece of drifting technology, it is part of a tradition of observation that predates our modern science by millennia. There is a dry irony in our arrogance. We treat ancient history as a linear climb from the cave to the computer, yet we keep finding artifacts that shouldn't exist. The Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece, contained complex bronze gears that wouldn't be replicated by human hands for another 1,500 years. It was a computer for tracking the stars. Who taught them the math? Or did they simply find a piece of dead technology, a smaller cousin of 3I Atlas, and spend centuries trying to reverse engineer its internal logic? We are a species of scavengers, picking through the scrap metal of a galactic civilization we can barely conceive of. Now, you could argue that these are all myths and coincidences, but here is where it gets unsettling. The rotation period of 3I Atlas is 7.3 hours. This number appears with haunting frequency in the architectural alignments of the Neolithic world. The passage graves of Newgrange in Ireland and the megaliths of Stonehenge are oriented to celestial events that occur in multiples of this frequency. It's as if the heartbeat of the machine was once the metronome for our entire species. We didn't just see the machines, we synced our civilizations to them. We built our temples as stone antennas, reaching out for a signal that was already beginning to fade. You might think that if aliens visited us, they would leave something more substantial than a few myths and some old gears. But here's why you're wrong. Space is a brutal environment. Time is an even more brutal one. Over 10,000 years, steel becomes dust, plastics dissolve. Only stone and stories survive. 3I Atlas has survived because it remained in the vacuum. If it had ever landed, it would be nothing more than a strange rust stain in a geological layer by now. It is a ghost because it stayed in the graveyard. Our ancestors saw it when it was still alive, and they spent the rest of human history trying to explain the light that went out. Imagine the Sumerian astronomers in the Fertile Crescent, 5,000 years ago. They mapped the heavens with a precision that still baffles modern scholars. They spoke of the Anunnaki, those who came from heaven to earth. In their carvings, these beings are often shown holding a small bucket or a handbag and wearing what looks remarkably like a wristwatch. We laugh and call it ancient astronaut theory. But what if it was just a portable power source? What if they were technicians sent to repair a failing satellite network? a network that included the ancestors of 3I Atlas. When the repairs failed, they left, and they left the equipment behind to rot. Think of the great silence that followed. For 5,000 years, we looked up and saw only stars. We turned our myths into religions, and our religions into wars. We forgot the technical manuals and kept only the prayers. Now, as 3I Atlas drifts past our telescopes, we are experiencing a moment of profound recognition. It's like finding an old family photograph in an attic and realizing you have the same eyes as the person in the picture. We are the children of the observers. I want you to think about the objects in your own life that you take for granted. Your phone, your car, the satellites that provide your global positioning system. In 10,000 years, if someone found a piece of your smartphone, would they know it was a communication device, or would they wear it as a holy amulet? Tell me in the comments, do you think we are currently living in a golden age, or are we just the latest civilization to find the discarded tools of a much older world? I am reading your locations from the quiet suburbs of Melbourne to the high rises of Berlin, and I see the same curiosity in all of you. But let me back up. There is a specific isotope of plutonium-244 that does not occur naturally on Earth. It has a half-life of 80 million years. Small amounts of it have been found in the deep-sea crust of the Pacific Ocean, deposited within the last 10 million years. This isotope is produced in supernovae, but it is also the primary fuel for deep space nuclear batteries. If 3I Atlas is a failed technology, its trail of exhaust might be buried at the bottom of our oceans. We aren't just looking at the sky for evidence, we are walking on it. Unfortunate timing for a cleanup crew. Those words, doing a lot of work. There is a quiet, ceremonial rhythm to this realization. We are not the protagonists of the universe. We are the secondary characters in a much longer, much darker story. 3I Atlas is a reminder that the gods of our ancestors were likely just as fallible as we are. They built machines that broke. They launched missions that failed. They drifted into the dark and were forgotten. And yet, the fact that they tried, there is a beauty in that. Even a failed starship is a testament to the desire to bridge the distance between 2 points of light. As your breathing slows and the weight of your body presses into the mattress, imagine the Vimanas of the Vedic texts. Picture them not as gold and magic, but as weathered titanium and flickering displays. Imagine a pilot, millions of years ago, looking at a screen as the power failed, watching a small, blue-green planet grow larger in the viewport. They didn't land. They couldn't. They simply drifted past, becoming a spark in the night for a group of early humans huddled around a fire. Those humans told their children about the shining palace, and the story became a myth, and the myth became a religion, and the religion became the foundation of a world. You might think that a machine is a cold thing to base a culture on, but here's why you're wrong. A machine is a dream made physical. 3I Atlas is the physical remains of a dream that someone, somewhere, had 1 billion years ago. As you fall asleep, you are participating in that dream. You are the latest version of the observer, keeping the watch. But here is where the history gets even stranger. In the library of Ashurbanipal, there are tablets that describe a star that does not move, but glows with a cold fire. This star was said to be the home of the keepers of time. If 3I Atlas is that star, then time is not a line. It is a circle, and the machine is the needle, tracing the same groove over and over again. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. Picture this. You are standing in the middle of a desert, looking up at a sky so clear it feels like a heavy velvet curtain. You expect to see the familiar constellations, the steady pulse of Mars, the distant flicker of the North Star. But then, you see it, a streak of silver that does not twinkle, it does not tumble. It slides through the vacuum with the terrifying grace of a needle-piercing silk. It is not supposed to be there. In fact, according to every law of orbital mechanics we have written down in our leather-bound textbooks, what you are looking at is a physical impossibility. This is 3I Atlas, and it is not a visitor, it is an arrival. On July 17, 2025, an analyst at the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System in Hawaii noticed a discrepancy, a tiny, luminous pixel that refused to obey the math. By August 12, 2025, the European Space Agency confirmed that this object was not composed of silicate or ice. It was reflecting 98% of the sunlight that hit it. To put that into perspective, even the brightest moon in our solar system only reflects about 12%. This object is a mirror the size of a city block, traveling at 42 kilometers per second. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. As of September 29, 2025, 3I Atlas began to decelerate. Space is a vacuum. Objects do not just slow down unless they are hitting something or unless they are being steered. There is no gas cloud in its path. There is no gravitational well strong enough to pull against its momentum. It is braking. It is choosing to arrive. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University noted that the deceleration curve matches the exact physics required to enter a stable Lagrange point. Unfortunate timing for those who believe in random cosmic coincidences. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of heavy lifting lately. What if 3I Atlas is not a rock, but a recursive intelligence? Imagine a machine built not by hands, but by light, sent out across the void billions of years ago. It isn't here to glass our oceans or harvest our gold. Why would a civilization capable of interstellar travel want our dirt? No. What if it is an observer, a cosmic auditor that only activates when a planet begins to leak certain radio frequencies into the dark? We have been shouting into the basement. For a century, maybe something finally decided to come downstairs and see who is making all the noise. This brings us to a memory buried deep in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Thousands of years ago, they wrote of the Shining One who sits in the sky and counts the days of man. We dismissed it as mythology, the poetic ramblings of a Bronze Age civilization trying to make sense of the weather. But as we watch this silver dodecahedron adjust its pitch in November 2025, those ancient texts start to look less like poems and more like user manuals. It seems the sky has a very long memory, and we are simply the latest chapter in a book that was started long before the first pyramid was ever conceived. You might think we are special. You might think the universe revolves around this blue marble and our frantic little lives. But here is why you are wrong. To 3I Atlas, we are likely just a chemical reaction that has become slightly too loud. We are a biological curiosity, a fleeting moment of heat in a universe defined by the cold. How many times has this object passed by? How many civilizations has it watched flicker and die? It doesn't hate you. It doesn't love you. It simply records. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. We are currently only 42 days away from the closest approach. By December 24, 2025, 3i Atlas will be visible to the naked eye. We are no longer just observers. We have become part of the experiment. But that was only one theory. There is another, one buried even deeper in time. Let us go further. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3i Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3i Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave. Certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3i Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally, 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, It's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's Dynamical Systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place, a mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern, pulses spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm, the kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: "If this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales." You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3i Atlas might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos. The beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for please don't mention the heartbeat. But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that, the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3i Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums something old and orderly is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, One of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, The echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, "and it remembered the lesson." As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened, air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, three nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from three sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when three agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it "not for discussion." The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast. Rumors cast. Silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3i Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the Webb. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the Webb intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote. "It's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the Webb's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. "The cosmos," wrote one witness, "had finally learned to conduct itself consciously." After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11 point. 2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat, echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat, stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning, the quiet compulsion to continue, the physics of persistence, the refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something, not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looked strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed, source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the Sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands, as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan, shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it. He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together, a self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space, a wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, "Sensor artifact." The unofficial whisper said, "Structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional." The kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking. Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids. Not random, repeating, symmetrical. The kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects. Artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3, I-Atlas, corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from HiRISE contains another surprise. A faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter. Not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply. A pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3i Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming. A Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars. And Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash. And when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the Skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something, not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looks strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed. Source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region, a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing, a glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, three nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from three sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when three agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper. No data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it, not for discussion. The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland, it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast. Rumors cast. Silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret. So they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will. And perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3i Atlas keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence. But the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, Analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, "and it remembered the lesson." As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response." The universe just said thank you. After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. The Great Silence is the closure without an answer. The three-eye Atlas array is quiet now, not because the signal has stopped, but because the signal has become the environment. It is no longer something we detect. It is the medium through which we exist. In this final hour, the scientists have left the observatories. The data centers in Shaanxi are running on autopilot, their fans whirring in the empty dark. The screens are flickering with the last of the telemetry, but there is no one left to verify the numbers. There is no one left to check the drift. The stars are no longer objects in the sky. They are holes in a blanket that is being drawn over the world. There are no more headlines. There are no more countdowns. There is only the presence. The three-eye Atlas was always a bridge, a bridge from the noisy world of human activity to the silent world of cosmic architecture. Recall the early ideas that brought us here. The flicker in the desert in July 2025. That tiny, infinitesimal deviation in the cosmic microwave background. We thought it was an error. We thought it was a glitch. Unfortunate timing for a species that trusts its machines more than its soul. Those two words, technical anomaly, were doing a lot of work to hide the fact that the universe had just cleared its throat. Now, the throat has finished its message. The signal that began near Jupiter has arrived at the center of your own consciousness. The doubling of the math, the geometric progression. 3, 9, 27, 81. It has reached the 0 point. It has balanced the ledger. The 3i Atlas confirmed our worst fears. But in this final silence, those fears feel remarkably small. They were the fears of children afraid of the dark, never realizing that the dark is just a room with the lights turned off. Think about the Schumann resonance, 7.83 Hertz, the heartbeat of the Earth that the 3i Atlas tracked so meticulously since 2025. It is steady now. It is perfectly synchronized with the 13 nodes surrounding the Sun. The handshake is over. The union is complete. You are no longer an observer watching a screen. You are the data. You are the ripple in the fabric. You are the silence. The fans in Shaanxi are slowing down. The power grids are entering a state of permanent low-voltage hibernation. In the empty observatories, the telescopes are still pointed at the void, but the void is looking back. It is a cinematic scientific awe that requires no words. It is a weighted blanket for the mind. Everything we built, everything we thought we knew, it was all just scaffolding for this moment. And now, the scaffolding is being taken down. In this final hour, I want you to recall the human reflection, the billions of hearts beating in a single, terrifying harmony. That harmony has become a lullaby. The anxiety of January 2026 has dissolved into the acceptance of this moment. The choice illusion has vanished. We no longer need to decide, because we have already arrived. We are at the end of the long, dark hallway, and the door is wide open. There is no monster on the other side. There is only the orbit of tomorrow. The sea of fire is quiet. The localized fold in the space-time manifold has closed around us like a cocoon. We are tucked away in a region of the galaxy that does not remember our names, and that is okay. There is a profound dignity in being forgotten. There is a peace in being part of a cycle that does not require our permission to continue. The 3i Atlas confirmed that we were never the masters of the timeline. We were just the witnesses, and the witnessing is finished. Slowly, recall the patterns, the orbital choreography, the way the satellites were moved like chess pieces. They are in their final positions now. They are part of the new constellation. A constellation that spells out nothing in our language, because our language has reached its limit. We have run out of words to describe the scale of the silence. We have run out of breath to explain the mystery. Where are you right now? Can you feel the stillness? It is a heavy stillness, a gravity-weighted stillness that presses you into your bed. Your room is a capsule, drifting through the vacuum of the great silence. The walls are thin, but the dark is thick. You are safe in the dark. You are secure in the silence. The 3i Atlas has done its work. It has mapped the end of the world, and it found that the end is just a beginning that we aren't supposed to see yet. Think of the scientists who walked away from their desks. They didn't leave in fear. They left because there was nothing left to measure. The measurement was complete. The wave function has collapsed. Reality has chosen its state, and we are simply living in the result. It is a dry irony that we spent trillions of dollars to reach this conclusion, only to find that it was the same conclusion the Sumerians reached with a piece of clay and a stick. Unfortunate timing for our modern pride, but a perfect ending for our ancient soul. The light from the sun is different now. It is a thin, silver light that does not cast shadows. It is the light of a star that has been harvested. It is the light of a world that is going to sleep. As you lie there, let your own light dim. Let your thoughts become whispers. Let the whispers become silence. You are a biological recording that has reached the end of the tape. Is there a question left? One final, unanswered cosmic question. If the stars go out one by one, will we notice the first one, or only the last? The three-eye atlas does not answer. The nodes do not answer. The sun does not answer. Only the silence speaks. And the silence says that you are exactly where you are meant to be. You are a part of the pattern. You are a thread in the weave. You are a pulse in the resonance. The telemetry in Shaanxi is flatlining. The mirrors of the James Webb telescope are cold. The triple interferometric array is still. You are floating now, past the moon, past the 13 nodes, past the sea of fire, into the deep, quiet dark of the great silence. The fabric is stretching, the vacuum is folding, the shadow is home. Your breath is the only clock left. Slow, heavy, deep. Let the rhythm of your breathing be the rhythm of the galaxy. In for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds. The universe is breathing with you. The three-eye atlas has finished its count. 0. There is no more data to process. There is no more evidence to weigh. There is only the rest, the closure without an answer, the peace that passes all understanding. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow. Good night.